Welcome to Stay Paid, your number one sales and marketing podcast on a mission to help you close more deals, keep more clients, and build the life of freedom you're working towards. But that can only happen if you're willing to take action today. My name is Josh Dyke, Chief Marketing Officer at Reminder Media, joined as always by Luke Akery, President of Reminder Media. And our special guest today is Vince Leisey. Vince serves as President of the Berkshire Hathaway HomeServices Network, where he's built a reputation as an innovative leader who empowers brokerages and agents to thrive in a rapidly changing industry. He's also the CEO of Berkshire Hathaway HomeServices Ambassador Real Estate, known for its mega office model and recognized by Entrepreneur Magazine as one of America's top company cultures. Vince, welcome to Stay Paid. Thanks for being here.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Happy
to
be
man,
here.
It's great. Great to have you here, Vince. I've been excited to have you on the show. You're a legend in the space, obviously a what do they call it? Like a Power 200 player, I think is what they call it out there. And I'm so interested to pick your brain on.
I'm an old man that's just been around a long time.
I didn't want to say it. You said it. I didn't want to say it. Here's my question for you, right? Because you're leading just so many agents. You're leading an incredible brand. You know, what's the hardest lesson you've learned as a leader that you wish someone would have warned you about?
There's probably a lot of lessons, but I'm ADHD and I'm not very patient. And I've learned as a leader, I have to have some patience, to be honest with you, because when I'm not patient, then I don't make good decisions. I don't get people to buy into what I'm doing. You don't get this, we're a tribe and we're all together type of mindset. So really, I probably early on, I wish somebody would have said, hey, you're not a very patient person. You're going to have to be patient in a leadership role to make sure you're bringing people together. Because that's what, right, when you run an organization, that's what it's all about, right? We're creating energy and a great culture and educating all these other things. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's bringing people together to work together as a team, right? And not individually by themselves. And so I definitely 100% needed a lesson on patience. And I still have to, quite honestly, work on that on a regular basis, even today.
Do you ever question though, that because you weren't patient, that's why you are successful? Like, I find there's those tension things, that it's like the thing that people complain about sometimes about me is also the reason why I've made the success. But are you saying you've made it in spite of not being patient? Like, you would have even been further along if you were more patient, you think, as you look back?
So I think there's a couple things. One is you need to be more patient when you don't have all the facts and knowledge, right? The longer I've done something, the more I can make a quick decision. And I am a person to make quick decisions. I'll tell a very quick story, if I can. I was at Google for Prudential had me before I went to Berkshire Hathaway, 13, 14, 15 years ago now.
Okay.
Put an innovation group together. And I went to Google twice. And the second time I went to Google, they had 4 of us from Prudential there, and we all signed confidentiality agreements, and Caldwell Banker and Keller Williams, and everybody had some people there that signed confidentiality agreements. And this guy got up, that was one of the heads of Google, and said, hey, everyone thinks we hate Apple. We don't hate Apple. We have the utmost respect for Apple. My first thing that popped in my head is competition is truly a good thing, which is another lesson I've learned. Competition allows you to not become complacent and to continue to focus on what's others doing that may be better than you, that you need to look at, right? And learn from competition. So competition, I think, drives you. So I like that. But they said there's 2 fundamental differences between us and Apple. First of all, Apple would never do what we're doing here today. A confidentiality agreement signed or not, Apple doesn't do anything. They don't bring in outsiders. They do things on the inside and then they roll it out and they just move forward. They're not asking people for their opinions. But he said, the second thing is we roll things out all the time. And at that time, I don't remember. They were rolling out Google Huddle and some other things, which quite honestly is really a Teams or a Zoom call is all it really is. I didn't know what it was 15 years ago, though. They said we roll out things knowing they may not be perfect. Some may not work at all. And that we'll continue, the ones that are working, we'll continue to tweak those and change those. And Apple doesn't roll out things until they believe they're perfect. It said fundamentally we're different. So I went back to my organization at that time, Ambassador in Omaha. And I said, fundamentally, we are going to be Google. We're going to make more bad decisions than all of our competition combined, but we're going to make more good decisions than all of our competition combined, because we're not going to sit on the sideline for the fear of failure. Because I see so often in this business, people say, I can't do it till it's perfect. I can't do it till I got this done. I can't. I'm like, no, do it, continue to improve it, continue to move forward. And the second part of that is Google's like, there's a 2-way door, right? that if you're doing something and you get in and it's not right, realize that, right? So you have to have knowledge. My whole key to the patience thing is the more knowledge you have, the better your ability is to make faster decisions, right? Get the facts, get knowledge, make decisions and go, but continue to pay attention to those things. If you made a bad decision, get out, don't get too far in. And if you got something going well, continue to tweak it and learn what others are doing and make it better and improve in that process. So philosophically,
so good.
I've always ran on what I now call that Google model. We're gonna make decisions. We're gonna do things. We're not gonna sit on the silence for the fear of failure, and that works well for my lack of patience to do that. But I had to learn. I had to make sure that I had the facts. I wasn't making an off the cuff decision without having any facts in front of me, because then that's when I make bad decisions. So if I have enough knowledge, enough facts, I have no problem making fast decisions and running with those and honoring what our decisions are. And we make bad decisions, get out of those, and we make good decisions, continue to tweak those and improve them, because we're never starting out where it's perfect. It always has to constantly be changing and getting better with whatever we're doing. Does that make sense?
No, it makes total sense. And it really speaks to like that clarity for the culture itself within the company. You've obviously, really figured out award-winning cultures at scale. What's something that you've learned about building a culture, or what's something that you believe about culture that maybe others might disagree with?
Well, I believe culture, first of all, is built best when you're face to face. And so we live in a world today that there's probably a fair amount of people that disagree with, coming into the office all the time. But I will tell you why COVID has helped us have Teams and Zoom and communicate, electronically more frequently and better than we ever have before. It still does not replace getting face to face. And so to me, the heart of building a great culture is on Monday, we're going to have a Thanksgiving pot roast for our entire organization, right? We just did a grill off where we had 15 people doing ribs and all these different things, and we're saying we bring in bounce houses in and like bring your kids and bring your family, and and we just had a couple of weeks ago, right before for Halloween, a trunk or treat where we had cars brought up and people brought in their families, and we did chili and soups and dogs. To me, culture is first and foremost built on physically putting people together. You nurture stronger and better relationships when we're together in the same space, talking to each other. The energy, the excitement, the enthusiasm, the learning, the collaborating, the networking is all that much better. And so, not everybody agrees that people should be in the office on a regular basis. I believe they should be. And when people work virtually, there's exceptions to every rule, by the way, okay? But for the vast majority of people, when they work virtually, especially in the real estate business as independent contractors that are 100% commissioned, there's too many distractions, right? The dog's barking. Now they're taking the dog on a walk, or they're going out, they're mowing the yard, they're doing the dishes, They're taking a nap, they're watching a show, right? Put yourself in the right environment, you have a better culture. In the office, you're now talking to other productive agents, something that may spark a conversation, walking down the hallway, talking to people, may put a buyer or seller together, may help you with the transaction. Right? None of those conversations are taking place when you're apart from each other. So in my mind, cultures are best built. And I just had this conversation. I've been out in Irvine the last 3 days at our headquarters for Berkshire Hathaway HomeServices with a couple of the departments. I'm like, guys, the more we're together, the better the collaborating, the more the idea sharing, and the better decisions we're going to make, because we're going to brainstorm, we're going to understand each other better, and we're going to be, at the end of the day, it will reflect in a better culture. We will enjoy working here more, and we're going to be more successful and productive because of it. And I think that's the other thing is you lose productivity when you're not together.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because like Reminder Media, we took virtual in the pandemic, and then decided, let's go all in and hire talent. We're based in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania, but let's hire talent all across the nation. There's an opportunity for us. We don't know where the world's going, but we're going to seize this moment of down and make it into a positive. And it worked. It was great. Like we started hiring. Now we're in like 27 states. But going back, if I could go back in office today and pull everybody back, I would. Because I actually agree with you. I think the thing I underestimated, that I think is an affirmation or confirmation of what you're saying, is I underestimated that you can do great work virtually and you can communicate well virtually, but what you struggle to do is build relationship. And relationship is the central point
Exactly.
that really dictates trust, right? And to have a great team, you need great trust and great chemistry. And like I just picked up when you talked about the thing, Friendsgiving that you're going to have, the trunk or treat, the stuff like that. It's just a way for you to get to know them personally, which is relational. And it's like once you know somebody relationally, like you know that, hey, I know your wife, I know your kids, and I know your hobbies, I know you go to church, whatever it is. It's just so hard to do that virtually, not because it can't be done, but you lack the opportunities that naturally flow, like the water cooler opportunities to just talk about relationships, or the potlucks because you're in 27 different states. So honestly, it's like we are a virtual type company, but if I could bring everybody back in an instance, I would. Strategically, it's a little bit tricky. So we're looking at that, but it's an affirmation to you there of like,
It is.
you're spot on.
And I think we live in a new world today, right? I still think brick and mortar is the most powerful part of building those relationships, because what happens is, what I'm talking to other companies and other businesses, there's less loyalty because there's less relationships. They don't know them on a personal level. Right?
Yeah, they're mercenaries. They're not missionaries.
The loyalty's
they're
not there. The trust, the trust is not there. I think companies that are true 100% virtual offices, there's not going to be any, us. It doesn't feel like a team. It doesn't feel like us together. It's kind of like a bunch of individuals that are plucked together. But it's not a true team, I don't think, in the sense of what it could be when you're in the same space. And when I went back to Google, the one thing is, and I don't know how they operate.
It becomes very transactional.
It's very transactional. And Google had all these open spaces. What I saw there, which was very interesting to me, is they were collaboration areas where these people were all coming together, to learn from each other, because there's never the best decision isn't just one person thinking by themselves. The best decision, as a leader, I always tell people, challenge me. If I have a thought and you think it's wrong, tell me why you think it's wrong, right? The more I want us to have debates when we're talking about things. The more that you're talking about things, the more you're debating things, the better you understand that person, not just from a business standpoint, but a personal standpoint. Probably the more honest you're going to be, the more trust you're going to have. And I think the more likely you're going to be to come to a great conclusion, because you've really tried to vet all of the options on the table, and you've gave everybody the freedom. See, a great culture is everybody is allowed to speak and allowed to be heard. It doesn't mean as a leader you have to agree with everything, right? There's sometimes you're not going to agree, but you're going to say, listen, I'll listen to you, but at the end of the day, I'm going to do what I think is best for our organization, right?
Yep, 100%. The industry's changing, right? It's like, obviously you have these virtual brands that are out there. You have everything that you've probably talked about it till you're blue in the face at this point, with commission lawsuits and, changes in the marketplace of the Redfins being bought by Rocket and all that stuff. I'm curious, what was the moment in your career where you felt the most pressure and doubt? And how did you lead through that doubt and uncertainty?
The biggest doubt, I don't know, is, my mother started this company. She passed away. She had cancer for 7 years, passed away in 2001. And I took it over right before that. And we were just a small company with under 100 agents. And I guess my biggest doubt was really my doubt of myself, is like, I had to build, I think to be a good leader, you got to build knowledge, but you got to build confidence in yourself. You got to believe in yourself at the end of the time. Right. So I started studying like human behavior. And I'm like, you know what, we're gonna have these younger generations of people coming into the marketplaces. And at that very time, Mike Ferry, I went to a Mike Ferry conference, and he started talking about teams, and nobody really had teams back in the 90s, right? And I'm like, you know what? I think this is going to be a generational change. If you start looking at the younger generation, it's baby boomers, me against the world, the heck with everybody else kind of mindset, right? And now it started comes now you go to school and like everyone gets a ribbon, everyone gets a pat on the back, and but what I found is like people really do want to be part of something bigger than themselves, right? That because I'm part of this, I'm part of something special that's bigger than if I just do it on my own. I'm like, this team concept really works. But to me, my doubts were right when I started taking this company over, quite honestly. I'm like, okay, I got to learn. And the thing I really started trying to understand was human behavior. And so at that point in time, I'm like, this next generation, it's like, get rid of the suit and tie, right? It's not a power play. In our business, our agents can walk out the door any single time they want. They're all 100% commissioned. There's nothing really holding them to us. So when I would interview for years agents, I didn't sit behind a desk. I sat at a conference room. It is us. It's a team. It's a partnership. We're doing this together. It's not I'm boss, you're under me. And so I had to go through a learning curve understanding human behavior, what was important to others, how are you open to them, how do you make them feel comfortable in talking and communicating with you and others in the organization. But my biggest moments of doubt was like, okay, it was when I took this thing over, it's like, I don't really have the knowledge base. I don't know where I'm going. And so you've always got to educate yourself and continue to learn and continue to grow if you're going to be successful, at least from my perspective.
Yeah. So true.
Yeah. Talking about, the talent and the agents that you've worked with. And I love the take on learning human behavior to really understand, because that is obviously so much of it, especially when working with people and then in an industry where you're servicing and working with other people. When you look at the agents throughout your career, the thousands of agents you've worked with, what's the real difference between the ones that rise to the top and the ones that don't make it?
Because there's a lot not making it, Vince. There's a lot out there not making it.
Most, right? You got 90% of the people not making it. You got 10% of them really doing well. And so for the last 8 years here in Omaha, and now I'm starting to take it nationally, we're going to do it more than once a year. I did an event in Omaha called Explosion. I invited only top agents to this. And then we would put panels together and typically try to hit the top 25 in each one of their categories within the Berkshire Hathaway Network. The top 25 individuals, that's the majority of the panelists I'd have on there, but it was really only top producers there. And the number one thing that I've came away with absolutely is like, they're not smarter. What they are is they are disciplined. They are so disciplined to the point that they consistently do revenue generating, prospecting, business growth activities on a regular basis. They're disciplined enough to consistently do those things. And by consistently doing the things that they know, they tweak them. But it is the discipline of the consistency they have. And it doesn't even matter what they're doing, as long as they know they're doing something because there's lots of activities we can do from a prospecting business, right? We can go do for sale by owners, or we can do door knocking, or we can do open houses, or we can do online lead. But if you're consistently doing something and tweaking what you're doing, you're going to always have a pool of business. And when you lose a deal, it's a lot less painful when you have 10, 15 deals going at a time versus having only one deal going at a time, you lose it. So to me, the most successful agents, without question, have more discipline, and they have learned how to be systematic and consistently do the things that they know they need to do to build and nurture relationships. And by the way, when we talk about relationships, I believe the thing that's not changed in the last 40 to 50 years, and I believe it'll be this way 20 to 30 years from now in our business, is first and foremost, we are in the relationship building business.
Yes.
We talk so much about social media, video, right? Podcasts, AI, innovation. All of those things are important. And I'm not saying they're not. You need to embrace them, but they're there to enhance the relationship building business we're in. They're not there to replace the relationship building business we're in. Still do client appreciation parties, still get face-to-face, right? That's meaningful. Use these other things to effectively communicate more effectively, with more clarity, with more frequency, to stay in touch with people, right? There's a lot of value to all of these things, but I think when you become dependent just on them and you now stop building and nurturing relationships, I think you're going to hurt yourself at the end of the day, because we're selling such a huge asset, right? The biggest asset to the vast majority of people. And when people have a great relationship with you, there's 4 critical traits. They like you, they believe in you, they have confidence in you, they trust you. You need to build that relationship, and that comes face to face more than anything else.
Yeah, so good. It kind of even goes into my next question I wanted to ask you, because you are sitting on top of such a huge brand and seeing so many different things in the industry and thousands of agents. When you look out 5 to 10 years ahead, obviously you believe it's going to maintain a relationship-based business. What do you think is going to separate the real estate companies that survive versus the ones that disappear? Because there's a lot of talk about consolidation right now, and that it's only just beginning and the industry is going to compress.
Well, the truth is, real estate brokerages, most of them are not making much money, if any money, right? It has been compressed. And so because of that, you're seeing Compass right now in the process of potentially buying Anywhere, which is a whole lot of different brands, right? The ones that are going to survive, which may sound contradictory to what I just said, but I don't think it is, because I think they coexist and live together, are the ones that are going to understand, how do we add value to our brokers and our agents, right? Because some of these are national brands and they're only agents and they are the broker. In the franchise business, we have brokers to serve and we have agents to serve, and their clients are buyers and sellers. But you're going to have to figure out how to continue to change. If you continue to do things the same way over and over, you're going to get left behind, because I believe we're changing at a pace we've never seen before. You're going to have to embrace innovation, AI, social media, and all these type of things. But you're going to have to put a value prop together. And it's not just one spoke. It's not just social media. It's like, how do we have coaching, right? I always tell people there's a difference between coaching and training. I loved when I first started recruiting, everybody that I would recruit, I would say, who have you talked to? Like, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, now, they've all talked about training, right? I says, who do you think has the best training? They're like, oh, I think this company has the best training. I'm like, I said, what did they talk about? Well, in every case, they were talking about, well, for a new agent, here's how I write a purchase agreement. Here's how I write a list agreement. Here's how I do an agency agreement. Here's how I do a net sheet. Here's how I do all these nuts and bolts that you could be the best in the world at and not sell a single house, right? I'm like, I said, we are a coaching organization. And so to my point of what's going to make, right, social media, innovation, AI, tech, we have to continue to change and improve those things to give tools to our agents to be, but we also need to be, the organizations that are going to live are going to be coaching organizations. They're going to have events to coach. They're going to have systems to coach. Coaching is ongoing, right? Tom Brady, I'm a Kansas City Chiefs fan, so I'm Patrick Mahomes. I'm hoping someday is the GOAT.
Oh,
personally.
boy, man.
But Tom Brady was not the strongest or the fastest, right? He was not the strongest or the fastest. But what did he, man, he studied and he learned and he figured out how to read the defense and the systems, right? He continued to learn. As defenses changed, he continued to. So coaching to me is substantially more important than training, right? We can get bigger and faster and stronger, okay? But we got to continue to learn what the competition is doing, what is working, what's not working, what's changing, how do we embrace change? So I think you've got to be an organization that understands coaching is absolutely essential to your success. And then you have to tie in technology, innovation, and those things and figure out how do we use those tools to help us build stronger relationships, to have more meaningful and increase and more value for our clients. And coaching is what helps you take those tools and those systems and all those things you have and help agents understand how do we utilize that to be better as we move forward to give value to our clients. And
Agree.
We absolutely have a burden and responsibility on our shoulders to show value, right? If we're going to continue to get the dollars that we get, and not everybody should be paid the same, by the way, right? Not every agent gives the same value. As you said earlier, there's a lot of agents not making a good living. Well, it's because they're probably not giving as good as customer service as they should, right? We have a responsibility to give great customer service. And in a real estate transaction, in my opinion, should be an enjoyable, fun, transaction. It should not be this crazy, psychotically stressed out transaction that it happens to be too often.
Agree. Yeah, man, 100% agree. And I also think it plays into this idea of consolidation and compression. It's that the consumer is expecting more from their agent. Because consumers in general, because the world is more connected now and people are more educated and more aware than ever and can get access to things. You as the agent, like we had a great interview with one of your great leaders, Ray Mesa. Ray is down in Florida, I believe, running the brokerage down there. And he was talking about how they are bringing, title and mortgage and all these things into the transaction because the consumer doesn't want to have to go to 4 different people. They want to be able to go to just one source, and that's compression. It's like it's compression of the value prop to the person. It's like, hey, you can no longer just say, I'm going to help you sell your home, or I'm going to help you buy a home. You've got to say, hey, I'm going to bring you the opportunity to be able to take care of your title and your mortgage and all the inspection and all the things that are involved. That's really how agents need to think about, hey, guys, things are shifting because consumers want more. And Jeff Bezos says this really well. What's not going to change in 10 years is convenience. People are still going to want it the most convenience, the fastest, the lowest price, the best service. All those things are principles.
And people will, right, if it's an easy, simple, stress-free, enjoyable transaction, people will pay for ease, right? People will pay more to make it an enjoyable transaction and relieve that stress from them in that thing. The other thing that I will tell you that is going to help people survive is when I started with Berkshire Hathaway, I said, I'm not going to do this unless we have a millennial think tank. This was back in 2011 or 12. We have to continue to bring younger people into our organizations. That is our lifeline, and that is our future, right? Sometime in the real estate industry, we've got a lot of brokerages that are aging themselves out of business. They need to figure out how to attract younger
Average
people
age
into
is
those
like
organizations.
56, I think.
If they're going to be, yeah, it's somewhere in the upper 50s. Yeah, I've seen it anywhere from 56, 57. One time it was even 59.
Jeez.
So you've got to bring younger people in. We can learn from them, and they can learn from us. And again, that is our lifeline. If you're going to be in the business 10, 20 years from now, it's not with a bunch of 56-year-olds. They're going to be out of the business for the most part, right?
Well, you never know, man. AI is changing the health game. They say we're going to live 100+ years now, with AI revolutionizing health. You never know, man.
You don't. That is true.
Peter Diamandis, he's the Moonshots podcast guy. I mean, he truly believes, it's a great podcast for anybody who wants to be on the edge of like AI and health and stuff like that. But Moonshots, he talks about how they believe they're very close to doubling the lifespan of human beings because of the breakthroughs in AI. I want to double back, though, on one of the things you said with coaching, because, it's funny.
Yes.
I've been in this industry a long time, not as long as you, but, I've dealt with a lot of agents, and everybody sees the issue. The issue is agents that fail are not disciplined and not showing up and doing the right activities day in and day out because they treat it as a hobby, not a business. And I think you are spot on that as a brokerage, as a business, if you want to survive, you've got to make it about education. You got to make it about coaching. I'm just curious, are you thinking coaching in terms of telling people what they need to do, or are you going to lean more into accountability? Because the issue really is not the knowledge. The issue is the execution. So are you leaning in with coaching to go, hey, we're going to hold you accountable. We're going to have a cadence. I think it was Ray, stealing his line, cadence of accountability,
great.
For our agents that come in. Because isn't that the real problem? The real problem is not the knowledge. The real problem is like holding agents accountable or inspiring them to accountability.
Most agents they know enough of what to do that they can make a better living than they are. And so the truth is, why does the Ferries and the Feeneys and why are these guys all filthy rich? It's because as brokers, we've not done a good enough job of coaching our agents, quite honestly, right?
Yeah, it's true.
And so the answer is accountability. And boy, people don't like the word accountability, by the way.
Oh, they hate it, man. They hate it.
Accountability is part of that. So in my organization in Omaha, real quick, is, we have, I think right now at 15 or 16 masterminds that have approximately 18 to 20 people in those. And you can figure 75% of those people show up every time. So, 12 to 15 people show up every mastermind. But part of that is like keeping them. And so every month we meet, and part of that is what's one thing you're focused on, right? The Darren Hardy approach. I like Darren Daly. Darren Hardy, interviews zillions of billionaires and understands how to be a super achiever versus overachiever. But it's like staying focused on the few. And so like coaching is accountability would be great if you could hold everyone accountable, but you're not gonna be able to hold most people accountable. So my mind is the more people I get in masterminds and get them to continue to stay focused on, here's the one thing, right? Continue to be mindful of them. Of here's the one thing I need to do. Here's the two or three things I need to do to help me stay focused. Give them ideas, because sometimes we've done things we forgot about we did. And so it's refresh ideas, to give them little ideas to continue to tweak what they're doing. But it's mainly to, have accountability, say, hey, here's what you need to continue to stay focused on. We do goal setting once a year. On occasion, we'll do dream boards. There's science that shows when you have goals and you read them daily, when you have a dream board and you look at it, right? You're going to be more likely to accomplish your goals when you do those things. So It's about implementing through coaching programs, which could be, we just did a 6-week program. We don't believe the beginning of the year is January 1st. We believe it's October 1st. So we do our goal setting in October. The actions we do today is not going to determine how much business we have this week. The actions we do today is going to determine how much business we have 30, 60, 90 days down the road, right? So it's all about putting an array of systems in place. One-on-one coaching, masterminds, group settings where people are coming in, and accountability is clearly a part of that. Tweaking their business is part of that.
Do you believe in cutting the bottom 10%?
Stay top of mind, the things they need to do, and
like the Jack Welch mentality.
Again?
Do you believe in the cutting the bottom 10% type mentality? Not, the numbers irrelevant, but the Jack Welch style of leadership.
Right, and I know. Yeah, the GE philosophy. All of his people were employees, first of all. So We're in a little bit different model in the independent contract world. So,
Agree.
right. So the thing is, if they're taking up your time and your space, that clearly makes sense to me because there's a cost of something in there. If they're hanging a license and they don't bother you and they're not causing you trouble, we tell people unapologetically, we are here to help you be great. That's our primary goal. Our primary goal is not to focus on the agent that wants to be a part-time agent and do 2 or 3 deals a year as an organization. That's not who we want to be, quite honestly. So the answer is, when I coach teams, I do tell them that what you allow as your minimum standard, it's very hard then to go to all the other people and say, no, you got to do this and this and this. And the teams, and the reason teams are so successful, because if a 25 to 30-year-old comes into the organization, in any of our organizations, the average age, I just saw 2 weeks ago, and I've not read this article. Someone told me that the average age of first-time home buyer is now 40 years old in this country,
I heard that.
which is a major, major problem, right? It's an affordability issue. Part of it's lifestyle changes, is that we want to do vacations and cars and events more, but part of it's an affordability issue. But you come into business at 25, 26, none of your friends are buying houses. So you need to be on a team, because that's important to you in many cases, because as managers of a brokerage, we don't have enough time to spend with them daily to hold them accountable, to put systems in place to help them get there. The likelihood of an agent being in the business 3 to 5 years down the road as a brand new agent is much more likely, especially if they're young, because they probably don't have that discipline yet. Put them on a team, they're going to be more likely to be successful than if they're an individual, unless you have a really strong mentoring program. The problem with mentoring programs that I found is, we have a group mentoring program. We stopped doing one-on-one mentoring. The best mentors, you would think, are the most productive agents, because they know the best, they have the best habits. And with the best of intentions, many times they say, I'll be a mentor, but they just don't have the time. And so it doesn't work out. So what happens is, if we end up having the mentors be the average of the road producers, who, guess what? They're not the most productive people. And now you're putting someone with somebody that does not have good habits. They're not prospecting. They're not doing the daily activities that they need to be doing to be successful. So you're putting the new agent with a mentor that's average. And so now you're coaching them up to be average. And so that's the reason 15, 20 years ago, I'm like, we're not doing that mentoring program. We're going to only do things that excel people to excellence.
Yeah, it's so good. Yeah, because more is caught than ever taught in life. And so if you put somebody with a mediocre producer, by association, they will become at best a subpar mediocre producer, because they won't even hit the level of their mentor, probably.
Exactly. I mean, so that's the problem. If you say, oh, make phone calls or do this or do that, and that person's not doing it, they're going to well, why am I doing that?
Yeah, correct. Exactly.
Vince, awesome, man. This has been great.
Yeah, incredible.
Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and everything that you've learned throughout the years. Before we close out here, let people know how they can connect with you.
I would say, if you send me an email, I'm probably not going to ever respond.
They don't have to connect with you either.
If you send, I'm scared. I'm scared to get my text out, because I can't get through my text messages right now, but I will respond to a text message. So, but I mean, reach out to my assistant, Aaron, or myself, and we're always here to help people, honestly. And that's the reason I do this is at the end of the day, right? We all want our legacy. Hopefully we want our legacy to be have we enriched the lives of other people, right? Have we made a meaningful difference in people's lives that they're better off having known us than not having known us. And so that's really my goal in life is to enrich the lives of others and to try to help and do that. So I am always here to help people, which is really the only reason I took this job of running the network at this ripe age in life.
That's awesome.
Love that.
Amazing. Thank you again so much. And thank you all for
appreciate
listening.
you guys.
Appreciate you. You can get the show notes to this episode over at staypaidpodcast.com. If you like this episode and want to show your support, go to our YouTube page /Reminder Media and give this video a thumbs up, as well as make sure you're subscribed to the channel. And if you want to help out the show, the best way is to share this episode with somebody that you know. You can get a hold of me or Luke at podcast@remindermedia.com. And of course, you can connect with us on social. We are at Stay Paid Podcast. For this episode of Stay Paid, I'm Josh Dyke.
Guys, I'm Luke Akery. Vince, man, amazing. Did not disappoint. Incredible words of wisdom. Looking forward to getting to know you more and joining you guys at one of your events. I want to encourage people, you got to take action, right? You can't just be a hearer. You got to be a doer. And so you heard it here. that at the end of the day, what separates the top producers is really two things: discipline and relationships. And I would challenge you, to apply that into your business this week and go, okay, how am I building relationships with the people who know, like, and trust me that will give me those referrals? And what is my discipline in order to execute on that? And for most of you, you probably don't have a calendar event that tells you got to reach out now to build a relationship. You have a perfect opportunity around the holidays to be able to reach out to people with a simple text message and say, hey, thinking about you. We should get together soon for a cup of coffee and catch up. Send that to the people in your sphere that know, like, and trust you. That's a relationship-driven activity, and it takes discipline to do it. Remember the difference between top producers and mediocre producers in every industry. It's top producers take action. Take action on that today.